Let's uh, let's just start with the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu cannot hold a vote amongst his war cabinet because they're all against him. So he's a dictator right now. He's ruling as a dictator because when he tries to vote for expanded operations and for this, the war cabinet's like, no, not going to happen. We just had a former chief of staff come out and say that Hamas has defeated the Israeli Defense Force. This is a former chief of staff of the Israeli Defense Force who's come out and said Hamas has won, Israel's lost, and that the greatest threat to Israel today is Netanyahu, and that we need to get rid of him. And you're seeing this over and over again. So understand everything that Netanyahu says is done in a political environment where his only chance of survival is to be this hard-nosed hawk and push for more war. But Israel's not buying into it. His days are numbered. Look, I said from the very beginning that Hamas, they planned and executed the greatest military raid in modern history on October 7th. I know people, murder. No, it was the greatest military raid in modern history. No military force has come up with anything close to this in terms of its audacity, its complexity, and its success. And a key aspect of a military raid is you go out and do what you got to do, and then you fall back in on prepared positions. And that's what Hamas did. They came back to Gaza underground into a tunnel network, 500 kilometers, that was built for one thing and one thing only: repelling Israeli attacks from the air and from the ground. So you got this anthill of tunnels going everywhere that have been designed not only to provide command and control logistics sustainability, but offensive capability means tunnels go up to allow the attackers to go out and attack into Israel or elsewhere, and defensive capability to respond to any attack. They're like little cellular structures. If Israel breaks into one, Hamas can seal it off and protect the hive. That's why pumping water in is so stupid, because you pump it in, they go seal it off. That's it. You didn't get anywhere else with that water, did you? Israel doesn't have a solution to that, but then you complicate it by bombing the hell out of this urban environment, this densely packed urban environment above, bringing it collapsing down on the ground. In addition to the videos that you saw of that guy, and I saw that too, and I'm just sitting there going, first thing I'm going is, he's going to die on the second step, because surely the armor in an exposed position has deployed infantry overwatch to prevent just that from happening. So surely there's a sniper team, there's a machine gun team, there's a infantry fire team out there scanning their respective zone, going, oh, there's an idiot, pop, 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 dead. Okay, that has to happen, right? Well, no, it didn't happen, because the Israelis are scared, poorly disciplined, poorly trained, and this is the reality. That merc of a tank may look good, but the guys inside are scared to death. And the reason why they don't have infantry cover is the infantry's scared to death. Why? Not just because some dude's going to come out with a satchel and throw it under a tank. It's that by dropping the structure, you saw the other videos. I mean, that the Hamas guys are looking through a labyrinth of broken structures, getting this one hole, and then they sit there and they got one shot at the tank as it's right there as it comes through. Now, if you're in the tank and you're driving through, you can't see. Even if you got infantry overwatch, they're not, they're looking on the surface, but they're not peering right through that single gap to the Hamas guy inside, who has a weapon designed for this, and who sits there and takes the shot, aims, pop, fires, bam, hits the tank over and over and over again. Hamas has studied the terrain, the new terrain, the collapsed terrain. They've picked their vantage points, and they just wait for the Israelis to come in and fill that hole, fire, kill, run, get out of the way, move. Normally, you'd show videos. I mean, unfortunately, everybody does it. When you kill your enemy, you put their bodies out and you lay them out and you go, well, we killed these attackers here. This is how. Israel's not showing any Hamas bodies, are they? When was the last time Israel said, here's all the Hamas guys we've been killing? Because they ain't killing that many Hamas guys. They're killing a lot of Palestinian civilians. They're rounding up men and claiming they're Hamas, even though they're not. They're teachers, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're this, but they're not the Hamas fighters. The Hamas fighters, now I'm not saying Hamas isn't losing people. They are. But Israel isn't slaughtering them. And Hamas is adapting to this battlefield where they have freedom of movement below the ground, and they're able to pick their places above the ground and inflict horrific losses on the Israelis. And as the Israelis become more scared, more undisciplined, they're making more mistakes and they're losing more people. The way you survive in warfare is to have your head on a swivel. I mean, you got to be looking this way. You got situational awareness. You got to be well trained. You got to
like on a football field, like on a football field.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're looking wrong, somebody, they can't do it anymore in the NFL. But in the old days, if you're looking the other way and there's a turnover and you didn't realize it, and now you're a blocker, you find yourself, somebody's going to plant themselves right between your. That was the goal, to find somebody looking the other way and just.
The hits I made in college on special teams against guys who weren't looking would have got me permanently evicted from football today, but they were clean hits back then. But, situational awareness, and yes, you have to trust your teammates. You have your job to do, and you can't worry about what's going to happen in this sector. You just have to assume that your teammates doing that job. Well trained, that's gone. The Israelis are not well trained. They're not. It's a reserve force. They're not that good. They're poorly disciplined. These guys, if you take a look at what they're doing in terms of mocking the Palestinians and so, that's the sign of a poorly disciplined force. Their goals are revenge, but revenge only takes you so far, because revenge works, until you step in the ring with Mike Tyson and then he hits you and you realize that, oh God, this revenge thing ain't so good anymore because I'm getting the crap beat out of me. Hamas is just sitting there beating the living crap out of the Israeli Defense Force. But it's not just Hamas. Hezbollah. Again, Israeli defense personnel speaking to Haaretz, a Israeli newspaper, have said that Hezbollah, it's not just, because Israel likes to say, we're going to, put the fight into southern Lebanon and make Hezbollah pay a price. What the Israelis have said is Hezbollah has taken over operational control of northern Israel, that Hezbollah is dictating the terms of engagement in northern Israel. They are dictating Israeli activity inside northern Israel. And if you think Hamas has tunnels, I'm here to tell you right now that if this fight expands, you're going to see Hezbollah fighters popping up in places in northern Israel nobody's imagined. They're going to be seizing Israeli towns, Israeli villages. They're going to be launching operations on the ground into Haifa. They'll be hitting the Israelis where they ain't. It'll be a completely different war than the one that the Israeli Defense Force has envisioned, and the Israeli Defense Force is recognizing this, and this is why they're telling Netanyahu, do not go to war with Hezbollah. We will get our asses handed to us. That's the fact. The Houthi, there's no solution to the Houthi. I mean, what they're doing is just stunning. But it's a reflective of the reality of modern warfare, where these minor military forces, when given advanced military technology, can equalize the military equation. The mighty U.S. Navy with the Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier battle group can't control the Red Sea passage. The Houthi, and what it means is that we can't control the Strait of Hormuz. You remember when the U.S. said, hey, everybody, don't worry about Iran. We're the U.S. Navy. We're going to come rolling in there, and we're going to guarantee that the Strait of Hormuz will be open. Well, guess what the Houthi just proved? That that's a bunch of malarkey. That when Iran wants to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, it's shut down permanently. We can't do anything about it because our aircraft carrier will be sunk before it gets there. All of our ships will be sunk before they get there. The Persian Gulf is a giant death trap for the U.S. Navy. That's what modern technology means. And the Houthi just proved that, because the U.S. government, U.S. Navy had to back down from, Lloyd Austin. I forget, was it Prosperity Guardian?
Yeah,
Guardian Prosperity or something, Guardian Prosperity, Coalition of the Willing, all coming together. Everybody else went, not so fast. We don't want to be part of this. We don't support what you're doing with Israel and Gaza, so we don't want to be a part of this. Plus, what happens if this expands and Iran come in? Have you thought about the consequences? Of course, America hasn't thought about the consequences. Garland, we can't do anything. Israel's getting beat tactically, operationally, and strategically. Netanyahu's days are numbered. I think that he will be forced out of office in the very near future because he's failing across the board. He hasn't succeeded at anything. A huge embarrassment on October 7th. He was going to be the war leader that led the counterattack. His Israeli Defense Force is being humiliated in Gaza. They're impotent against Hezbollah. They can't do anything against the Houthi. Their economy is in tatters because of nothing's coming in to the port, and Elliot, and the 70,000 displaced from the north, 20,000 displaced from Gaza. That's 90,000 people in the middle that have to be cared for. No economic activity, no hope in sight. It's over. Israel lost. I mean, there'll be some fighting, screaming, kicking, and dying to go, but Israel can't win. They can't achieve the objective of destroying Hamas politically and militarily. Hamas is emerging from this stronger than it ever was. It literally, militarily, they're humiliating the Israeli Defense Force, humiliating them as we speak. Politically, Hamas is more popular today than it's ever been, If there was an election today amongst the Palestinian people, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank, Hamas is estimated to win between 71 and 76% of the vote. The Palestinian Authority has no legitimacy anymore, moral legitimacy. Israel thinks that they're going to be able to move forward with the Palestinians without a Hamas presence. Dream on. Hamas has been empowered. They're here. They're not going anywhere. It's Israel that's going to change. Netanyahu will be out. His coalition will crumble, and Israel's going to have to pick a leadership that's going to have to learn to deal with the new reality of the world.
Scott, I think in what we've seen in the last couple of years, power is only power until you use it, and then it becomes force. And once you use force, you become exposed. It's like a punch. I always say this: the worst thing you can do oftentimes is throw a punch, because if you miss, you're open. Or if you throw a punch and somebody traps it against you, blocks it, your arm's out here being blocked, throwing a punch, taking that assertive move, you better win. Because if you miss, people will make you pay, right?
Or if you hit and they go,
yeah. And now they know, oh my gosh, they ain't scared of you anymore. So
you didn't knock them out.
You're better off to continue to intimidate and scare people than to act, because then they find out if you're real or not. Here's my point. We've found out more about what modern warfare in the last 2 years. Here's what we know. Missiles rule. Right? I don't care what you got. If you can't stop a Kinzhal hypersonic coming in, whatever you got is done. It's doomed. It's finished. What we found out is drones rule. You know what I mean? Every way, shape, or form, people are now using drones. Yep. Men can't concentrate in big groups or they're going to be blown to hell. Right? It appears to me that the U.S. Navy is kind of worthless, because you got now the kinds of missiles that we have. Oh, I mean, they say, oh, we blocked this missile, or this missile came at us, right? But if you send a salvo with 30 missiles, you overwhelm them. You know what I mean? So little Yemen can throw a missile or a drone here and there, and the U.S. Navy can say, we intercepted 12 missiles of this drone. But if it's just even Hezbollah, a non-state actor, they can put enough missiles, good missiles at you. You can't block a salvo. You're going to hit, maybe go down. So the U.S. Navy, it is not the intimidating force that it's a vulnerability and a liability that they're figuring, how far do we have to stay from the combat zone to be out of range of modern day missiles? The ground forces, we don't have the numbers to put ground forces on the air. There's now, S-400s, there's now anti-aircraft stuff all over. The nature of war in the last 2 years has been what the American planners and militaries thought was the nature of war has been blown to hell in the last 2 years. Your thoughts?
No, you're 100% correct. Again, when I was in the Marine Corps, we did combined arms warfare, maneuver warfare. And it was premised on the notion that we weren't going to take Iwo Jima type casualties anymore. We didn't want to build any more monuments to dead Marines, that we're going to fight smarter. And so we combined, tactical skill, operational audacity with, technological superiority, or in some cases supremacy, that we were going to be better equipped, better trained, better prepared to carry out war. And gosh, I think Operation Desert Storm sort of proved that way of fighting against the world at that time, the fourth largest army in the world in Iraq, we dominated them. But Iraq didn't have the same weapon set that we had. They didn't have the technology that we had. What would have happened if Iran had a whole bunch of Javelin missiles? And now we start coming in with our mass tank formations, and the Iranians go, poof, or the Iraqis go, poof, 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 poof. And all of a sudden, bam, there goes one, bam, there goes one, bam, there goes one, bam. And before we even advanced 300 meters into the enemy defense lines, we've lost 10% of our armor force. We moved to 500 meters, we've lost 20%. and suddenly we run out of steam. We're now in a death trap. They hit us with other things, and we have to pull back, losing 50-60% of our armor force. That's why you're not seeing big aero operations between Russia and Ukraine today, because the lethality of the system. Take a look at the tactics. No more hey diddle diddle straight up the middle. No more big armor push through. Man, the way they fight today is they come in with, you know, small groups of infantry dispersed, backed up by 1 or 2 tanks with, you know, electronic warfare and air defense positioned. Why? Drones. Drones have changed the way of the war and the way of the world. And drones have become the nemesis for those javelin crews, you know, because it used to be, if you're a javelin crew, I'd have my, you know, forward observers out there looking for you. You pop off, I'll try and call in you know, mortars or artillery to suppress you, but you already killed the tank and then you displace, you know, it's tough game. Now you're a javelin crew, and all of a sudden this little little mini rotor thing comes up and stares at you. You're screwed. It now saw you. So it's either going to adjust fire on you, and there ain't nothing you can do to get away. You run over to this position, it sees you. Or it's going to call in its buddy drone, the FPV, the first-person view kamikaze drone with a big old chunk of high explosive on it. Boom! It got you. So you know you can't have your Everybody's underground now. If you take a look at the Ukrainian defensive positions, they're all underground. Every once in a while they pop up to look, but then they go underground. Why? Because if a drone sees you, you're going to die. The drone's going to come in and blow up your bunker, blow you up. Warfare's changed. You can't. I could not survive on the battlefield using the training that I had. I could not employ a Marine rifle platoon or rifle company using the tactics that I had learned, because they would be slaughtered by drones. The reality of it is we have to disperse more. You know, smaller teams of infantry working, you know, with armor, small groups. You can't put a large amount of tanks together; they die. You have to come in penny packets. The war has changed, but it's still very lethal. I mean, you don't lose 500,000 guys like the Ukrainians have, you know, from pinpricks. It's lethal because of the massive firepower that's still brought in on this. It's just different kind of firepower, different kind of war. It's changed completely. But drones are the revolutionary. You know, we talk about, you know, what was the big weapon of World War I? The machine gun. The machine gun, you know, you could do Napoleonic advances against a machine gun. What was the big weapon of World War II? The tank. The big weapon today? Drones. Drones have fundamentally changed the way we fight wars today. And if we're not prepared to do that, if we're not actively training to do that, if we're not, you know, incorporating every aspect of drone warfare into everything we do, we're going to lose, because the Russians have, and the Chinese are looking at that. The Iranians are looking at that. The Houthi are looking at that. Hezbollah is looking at that. Hamas is looking at saying, yeah, we can do that. And you saw Hamas use some drones in their incorporated. Drone warfare has changed every aspect of modern warfare. And if you're not thinking about how you're going to use drones in the next battle,